Certainly. JavaScript provides several built-in object methods that allow you to manipulate arrays in various ways. Dive deep into essential methods and properties of the object, from basic operations like Object.keys and Object.values, to advanced techniques such as manipulating descriptors and utilizing prototypal inheritance. Explore real-world use cases and examples to elevate your understanding of how to effectively work with objects in JavaScript. Object with examples and use cases. Please check provide sample code provide for each methods. Object.keys means returns an array of a given object's own enumerable property names. Use case: in a web application, you might have an object representing a user profile with various properties. You can use Object.keys to dynamically generate a form with input fields based on the properties of the user profile. Object.values means returns an array of a given object's own enumerable property values. Use case: in a data visualization application, you might have an object representing sales data with different properties. You can use Object.values to extract the data values and create charts or graphs. Object.entries means returns an array of a given object's own enumerable property key value pairs. Use case: when working with a server response that contains key value pairs, you can use Object.entries to iterate over the properties and perform specific actions based on each key value pair. Object.assign means copies the values of all enumerable properties from one or more source objects to a target object. Use case: in a state management system, you might have default configuration options in one object and user preferences in another. Object.assign can be used to merge these objects, giving priority to user preferences. Object.define property means adds or modifies a property on an object with the specified descriptor. Use case: in frameworks like Vue.js or React, you might use Object.define property to define reactive properties on an object, allowing the framework to observe changes and update the UI accordingly. Object.freeze means freezes an object, preventing new properties from being added and existing properties from being removed or modified. Use case: when you want to ensure that an object remains constant and immutable, you can use Object.freeze. This is useful, for example, when you define configuration objects that should not be altered during the application's execution. Object.seal means seals an object, preventing new properties from being added, but allows the modification of existing properties. Use case: when you want to prevent adding new properties to an object but still allow modifications to existing properties, Object.seal is useful. This can be used to enforce a fixed structure for certain objects. Object.create means creates a new object with the specified prototype object and properties. Use case: when implementing prototypal inheritance or creating objects with specific prototypes, Object.create provides a way to establish the prototype chain. Object.getOwnPropertyNames means returns an array of all own property names, including non-enumerable properties, of a given object. Use case: when you need to get all property names of an object, including non-enumerable properties, you can use Object.getOwnPropertyNames. Object.is means determines whether two values are the same. Use case: when you want to compare values and avoid the quirks of strict equality, you can use Object.is for a more accurate comparison. Object.keys, Object.values, and Object.entries in a loop means iterate over the keys, values, or entries of an object using these methods. Use case: when you need to iterate over the properties of an object, these methods provide convenient ways to loop through keys, values, or key value pairs. Object.hasOwnProperty means returns a boolean indicating whether the object has the specified property as its own property, not inherited. Use case: when you want to check if a property exists on an object without checking the prototype chain, you can use hasOwnProperty. Object.getPrototypeOf means returns the prototype, internal prototype property, of the specified object. Use case: when working with object-oriented programming in JavaScript, you might use Object.getPrototype to inspect or manipulate the prototype chain of objects. Object.entries: for iterating and destructuring means use Object.entries for concise iteration and destructuring. Use case: when you want to quickly iterate over an object's properties and perform actions or log information, Object.entries with destructuring can be a concise solution. Object.fromEntries means creates an object from an array of key-value pairs, entries. Use case: when you have key-value pairs in an array format, example from a form serialization, Object.fromEntries can be used to convert it into an object. Object.getOwnProperty descriptors means returns an object containing all ownProperty descriptors, including non-enumerable, for the specified object. Use case: when you need to inspect the property descriptors of an object, especially to understand property attributes like readability, enumerability, and configurability. These additional examples demonstrate more advanced features and use cases of the object in JavaScript, providing powerful tools for working with objects in various scenarios. Thank you for taking the time to explore this code. If you have any further questions or need additional clarification, feel free to ask. I hope this video was informative and helps you with your JavaScript adventures. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more exciting coding content. Happy coding, everyone.